Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review. This time we will be going over episode 15 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's The Duel between Yuga and our own freaky fish guy in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's Nanami. His first name I believe is Maguro, I might be wrong about that, but it is whatever tuna, it's literally translated to tuna in Japanese, or from Japanese to English. And much like we saw with the dinosaur kid a few episodes back, he ended almost every sentence with Jurassic. This kid ends almost all of his sentences with tuna, so that's probably going to be a consistent thing going forward for the side characters in this show. Kind of a fun little gag there. But what to say about the episode? Generally speaking, I thought it was an okay episode. It definitely had its moments. Probably one of the weaker episodes for me in a while, probably since the dinosaur duel and the Mad Max duel. We had gotten really good episodes between, Rook and Omaino Ushido, and then, of course, Roman and Gakuto, and then Yuga and Roa, and then, of course, last week we had a very gimmicky, for fun episode with ramen, and actually not ramen, excuse me, with curry rice and cooking. It was a very weird and wild episode, and this episode reminded me a little bit more of sort of the same vibe that we got with the dinosaur duel and the Mad Max duel, and that's not saying this was a bad episode or I disliked the episode. I definitely think that this episode could be important for things down the road, like both of those episodes were, because if Yuga doesn't meet the dinosaur, the Jurassic Fossil Club, and the dinosaur guy, he never learns that the relic is going to appear at the Roa Roman concert. So that was a very important episode and a very important thing that took place in the story, much like meeting Nanami might be. But the difference between this episode and those episodes is there was a major element of the plot that went on in this episode as opposed to those episodes. And the major plot that was going on right now is that Kaizo had been infected in the previous episode by, we would imagine, Goha, although we're not 100% sure that it's Goha. It's probably that super AI that's run by Goha that I think a lot of us like to joke around and say that it's I from Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, which obviously it's such a fun theory. It's not going to be, but it would be phenomenal if it was. There were also a few Arc 5 references in this episode that I had seen some people mention and that I picked up on. First of all, Lightning Bolt Condor. We finally see Lightning Bolt Condor make its anime debut, and it looks very similar to a Raid Raptor. Not necessarily saying that that's any sort of Arc 5 reference, but right after the duel, Nanami says he got Shivers, and you remember the Shivers kid from Arc 5, so definitely saw the slight connection there. And even when Kaizo is running away from this really weird, mystifying purple aura. Honestly, it's the same color scheme that I had in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, which is hilarious, but it's also the same color scheme that is associated with a lot of negative things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the Shadow Realm, even though that's a dub-only thing, but it looked kind of like the Shadow Realm was going to engulf Kaizo as he's trying to run away from this weird aura and this, obviously, corruption that he ends up facing. While that aura is chasing him, the aura is basically saying, you will become one with me. Those weren't his exact words, but he was like, you will join me, and that reminded me of the U-Boys, and Zark, obviously, become one, become one. So there were definitely quite a few. Gakuto blatantly references Solid Vision. That's not necessarily an Arc 5 reference because we have gotten Solid Vision as the main tool used in Yu-Gi-Oh! Since, I believe, the Duel Monster days. So that was, though, pretty cool that he blatantly referenced it, because definitely an homage to the older shows and the type of software that has been used forever in Yu-Gi-Oh! So this episode was littered with a lot of Easter eggs and what could be perceived as small references, but I do want to start with the Kaizo stuff, because we kind of knew, at least I was like 99% sure, especially when we heard Kaizo refer to Roman as Roman Tan and not Roman Chan. That was like and I know that's such a minor thing, but that was such, to me, a blatant hint at the writers saying to us, yeah, there's something a little off with Kaizo. And even the way that Kaizo acted right after the 3 Goha drones leave, it was a very uneasy scene, and you could tell that something probably was wrong with him. And we learned that the Kaizo that Yuga and friends had been following this whole time, getting on the ship, trying to trap Yuga and his friends on this ship for a month. Didn't work out because Nanami, of course, he owns this speedboat, and he just, burns them right back to shore. And it's great when he dumps them off because Rook and Gakuto have their composure, but Yuga looks like he's about to be seasick, and I think Roman is passed out from adrenaline on the port that he dropped them off on. So that was actually hilarious. There were a lot of funny moments in this episode. But getting back to the Kaizo thing, whoever is in control of Kaizo is trying to keep Yuga. They know about the relic, which is really interesting, and they are trying to keep Yuga and his friends away from all of the action. We're not really sure why. Even Yuga questions what motive is going on here, but we can probably infer that the entity that is doing this is that super AI that we saw in episode 6 in the ramen shop. In fact, they end up at that ramen shop at the end of this episode, which I thought was really, really cool. And that's where episode 16 is going to take off. And of course, we saw that AI, and it looked like someone was controlling the AI when you really zoomed into the infrared light in episode 13, at the very end of episode 13, which was, of course, the end of the first arc of this show, the Birth of Rush Duel arc. So that character is definitely going to be playing a massive role in this story. It looks like sooner than I expected. I thought we were going to probably have like 5 or 6 episodes before maybe the Kaizo reveal happened. We only got 1, so I actually do like that a lot, that they are really sticking with the main plot. And of course, you have this side duel going on between Nanami and Yuga, but it's a Yu-Gi-Oh anime, so that's nothing that is unfamiliar to us. You're used to kind of having duels that stray from the main plot for a little bit and then get back to the main plot at the end of the show. So that didn't feel weird. It didn't feel wrong, or I didn't think the pacing was weird with that. You're just kind of used to it, especially coming off an episode where you didn't have a duel. You knew that there was going to be a duel in this episode. As for the duel, I thought it was pretty okay. I liked Nanami a lot. For those of you that don't know, he has the same voice actor as One Punch Man, Saitama, which is pretty hilarious because obviously Saitama is a very laid-back and monotone character, and that's how the voice actor plays him. So that's probably something that you would never even be able to hear just with your ears. At least I wasn't able to hear Saitama within this Nanami character, but it's pretty cool that they got a pretty well-known VA to voice this guy. His eyebrows are fish, which was also really cool. And the ace monster that he had, that whale monster, was really, really sick. Yuga, of course, summons Bolt Condor, but it's a pretty much strategy that we've seen. The field spell was also really cool. It's the strategy we've seen in a lot of these Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's duels. I've seen a lot of people say that the duels are getting kind of monotonous. They're getting very similar, just that the monsters are a little different, and I can completely understand that criticism. Duelist A tries to strengthen their monsters or weaken Duelist B's monsters to beat over them, and then Duelist B tries to do the same exact thing. That's a strategy. The Omaino Ushido duel was a little different. The Roa duel was a little different. But for the most part, especially in these introductory episodes where you're introducing a new character that is also dueling, that is usually the strategy that you're going to see and that we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7. So strategy-wise, I didn't think this duel was anything special. The Bolt Condor summoning was awesome. I loved the CGI on the whale. I thought that was really cool. Roman, Gakuto, and Rook had some funny moments here and there, and I do like how in the beginning of this episode, Gakuto highlights that the reason Rook is so worked up about not being able to envision himself as the king of duels anymore is because Yuga, which was a point that we all really analyzed at the end of 13, said he is finally interested in becoming king of duels. The first 12 episodes, Yuga had zero interest in becoming the king of duels, and we see Rook turn towards Yuga with this look of, some people thought it was a look of anger or a look of, oh crap, when Yuga made that announcement, because all of a sudden, Rook knows that probably the greatest roadblock standing in his way, even though Rook's already got a dub against Yuga, is now actively going for the same title that Rook is going for. And that could lead to a really interesting rivalry between Yuga and Rook. I know Rook is the best friend character, at least that's how I view him. I view Roa as the main rival, but that would be really interesting if we have this secondary rivalry between your main lead and your best friend. that would be cool. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on, and I think their paths, because they want the same thing, are definitely going to cross down the road, and that is kind of where this episode began. The humor in the episode was good. A moment that I loved is when Yuga's voice cracked right as he drew for his final turn. You know, that was right after Roman, Gakuto, and Rook all said, "Oh, it's Yuga. Yuga will be fine. We believe in Yuga so much." And Yuga laughed that off, and then, you know, it's my turn, and his voice cracked, which when I was watching live with a few of you guys, I absolutely loved, and I thought that was such a good way to show vulnerability. Almost like Yuga at times doesn't have the same confidence that you would see in most protagonists, especially shonen and Yu-Gi-Oh protagonists, and even when his friends know that he's going to be able to get it done, there's always that thought in the back of his head where he's like, yeah, I really don't know. I'm kind of unsure of myself. And, you know, it's a very small hint of vulnerability to have his voice crack like that, because it does show uncertainty, and I think it shows nerves. And for a young 12-year-old kid, I think that is a great way to show that off. So I absolutely loved that moment. I thought it was funny. Gakuto also had some really weird voice lines where his voice like went really high, which was also hilarious. It reminds me of Rook after he had the curry rice in episode 14. So the voice acting, I think, has been great. The music in this episode was also really good. When the whale was summoned by Nanami, I loved the music that was playing. And all in all, it was another solid episode, but I am really excited to learn more about this Super AI, who's behind the Super AI, what connection the Super AI and Goha have to the Otis, have to the hologram man. Obviously, he was a former employee, but if they're trying to deter Yuga from finding him and they're using the relic to get Yuga away from Goha City for a month on a Goha-controlled ship, there is definitely something deeper going on here, that maybe Otis has the ability to completely unravel Goha Corporation from the inside out, and I'm really excited to see the reasoning and why that is happening. So Super AI, we're going to learn probably a little more about him in the next episode, episode 16. Roman is dueling. Roman has a chance to get a second win already in Sevens, which would be an amazing sign for her. I think she has been wonderfully written so far. Her only loss coming against Yuga, and she wasn't even using her actual deck in that duel. She was using Yuga's loner deck. So if she can get the dub next week, Roman is off to a flying start. Maybe one of the best starts we have ever seen a girl character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Get off to. I think that is a very fair statement. So we will see. We'll see if Roman Empire can take it home next week. But guys, thank you all for listening to my episode 15 review. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm so excited to talk to you all things Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 and all things 7's episode 15 down below in the comments section. And a special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Panther J, Smith620, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, and Aura Dragon, and to my Diamond tier patrons Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Pegasus Seiya, and Brandon Gomez, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons Stella Sky and Chase Connelly. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who is a YouTube channel member. You guys are amazing. If you want more Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's content, I do Talking Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's Up every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to tune in for that. I also stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/SuperDprot every Monday and Thursday night. Thank you guys so much for being an amazing, amazing community. I will talk to you down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have an amazing day.